What you are looking at is one of the most famous images of the gold stored at Fort Knox, but many people question its validity or if there's even any gold there at all, and with good reason. In this video, we're going to discuss the reasons why people question the Fort Knox gold, so let's talk about it as we explore. There's always been some level of mystery with Fort Knox because of the security, and that's one of the reasons why we really don't know a whole lot about the facility and the gold inside. There have been several visits, but the last really true audit of the gold was done many years ago. We're going to get into the details of what is Fort Knox and the specifications thereof, but also we're going to look at the reasons why people question it. But one thing for sure, if you want gold, you can get it very easily. My friends at summitmetals.com have some great deals on gold and silver products, so check them out today. Next time you want to make a purchase, or if it's within your budget to make a purchase with gold or silver. Now, Fort Knox certainly has a lot of mystery, and the question is do they really have the gold? Or is it just another conspiracy? Of course, there's a lot of conspiracies and conspiracy theories out there, but this one really does mean that, it's kind of propelled and perpetuated really essentially by the Treasury Department and the government in general because of how secretive they have been, and much of it unnecessarily so. The United States Bullion Depository at Fort Knox is serious business. Now, when it was constructed, back in 1936, 35, it was used 16,500 cubic feet of concrete, and that equates to about 4,200 cubic yards of concrete, 750 tons of reinforced steel, and 670 tons of structural steel. And that cost of construction was about $560,000 back in 1937 when it opened. And today, equated in today's dollars, would be about $9.5 million. It's housed more than gold, though. During World War II, the English crown jewels were there. 3 volumes of the Gutenberg Bible were stored, as well as the Declaration of Independence, the Gettysburg Address, the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, and the original Constitution documents, and the gold reserves for occupied European countries from 1941 to 1944. It's also housed, as well as seeds and other things. And of course, I talked about it in a previous video that it has stored 12 of the gold Sacagawea dollars that went up into space during a shuttle launch in 1999. The largest amount of gold that has ever been stored there is about 40.5 million pounds. And that was on December 31st, 1941. That weighs about the same of 90 statues of Liberty. Now, how much and how safe is the depository? Well, it has 147.3 million ounces stored there today. That's the current amount in that facility alone. That is about 3% of all refined gold that has ever existed, at a book value of $42.222 an ounce. That's a book value of the gold, whose standard size is 400 ounces at 7 by 3 and 5/8 inches by 1 3/4. That's 27.5 pounds. That's a standard weight of a gold bar there. And they're good delivery, and they're not good delivery because they're under the 995 designation. They're about 98 or 90% to 98% is the range of purity of those gold bars. Now, we know that it's very difficult. No visitors have ever been allowed inside the depository or even near the building because of the barbed wire, electric fences, armed guards housed on a U.S. Army post. Fort Knox is an Army base, and it's also has unmarked Apache helicopter gunships, ground sweeping radar, minefields. The vault door impenetrable by torch, drill, or explosive, weighs 22 tons and is 21 inches thick. It's almost as double the 12 inches of steel surrounding the hull of the USS Missouri battleship. So that's how much they want to keep the gold protected. Now, how do we know if there's any real gold in Fort Knox? According to some, there may not be anything at all in the vault. And in fact, even some shows like on the History Channel has done an investigation about it. But they don't believe there's gold in Fort Knox. And Bill Still, who's done documentaries in the past, in the 90s through even today, said that there isn't any gold, doesn't believe there's any gold in Fort Knox. And he is an author and a documentarian. And he has written for publications in USA Today and has hosted radio shows and written numerous books and documentaries. In 2011, Senator Ron Paul called for an audit of the gold at Fort Knox. And the last full audit was during the Eisenhower administration back in 1953. And so no outside experts were granted access. Only 5% of the gold was tested, and there has been no full audit over 60 years. And as I said in a recent interview with J.P. Cortez from the Sound Money Defense League, which I'll link to at the end screen of this video, the only thing that's been done since is just essentially just an accounting for the seals that seal the vaults. And there's not been a really exhaustive audit since then. So should we blindly trust the government about Fort Knox? Now, I do believe it's there because of what the former Mint director Edmund C. Moy, who I respect, said it was there, and others who have seen it, including the former Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, has visited there as well as other dignitaries back in 2017 in a high-profile visit with only copies of photographs that were taken there, which leads people to question even more. But that's just a visit, and back in the early 70s, there was a media tour and visit with a very little of not much. There wasn't an audit done, but it was a visit and people could see it. And right now, there is potential that we could see a visit again with Elon Musk and Donald Trump and maybe some others. Rand Paul has actually written a letter to the Treasury Secretary requesting to visit the vaults and for an audit. But should we blindly trust the government about Fort Knox? Well, there's a few reasons why we shouldn't, according to what you see on your screen there. And I'm not going to actually read this stuff, but you can see it there because of, you understand we've got there's reasons why I'm not going to read that. You probably know what they are, not going to get into it, but there are things about also the New World Order, and you can look at those things as well. All questions that people have, some validity to some of it, others I question as well, but nonetheless, but there was a time when gold was the backbone of our paper currency. And the gold standard hasn't been in place since August of 1971. We no longer have redeemed currency for gold, and no other nation has that, by the way. According to the federal chairman, Ben Bernanke, the gold in the vault is a long-term tradition, and that's it. It's not money. When asked in that famous exchange with Ron Paul, there was nothing in there that that he was going to admit that it was money. Is the government afraid we'll find out that there is no gold to audit? Well, we'll find out certainly with the visit that will be happening at Fort Knox if it happens. There's not been any word on it recently. As soon as I find out something, I'll let you know. Is what I do in this channel is provide you the latest news on the world of precious metals. I may not be first at times, but many times I am. And if I'm not, I'm going to be early with the news. I like to give you the latest information. So when I find out about that visit, I will let you know. But people rightfully question, because the government has lied to us so much about so many different things. So what happens if it's all a conspiracy? I mean, I believe the gold is actually there. I think we'll see it. Will we actually own it? Well, even according to what Senator Loomings wants to do in Wyoming, she wants to revalue the gold and buy Bitcoin with it. I think that is a horrible mistake. But nonetheless, if it's all a conspiracy, then the current U.S. government spending, which is now, these are outdated numbers, by the way. I'm not sure when this thing was done, but it's more than $3.5 trillion per year. And the latest legislation has doubled that. National debt is increased $1 trillion per every 100 days now, before Trump took office. The value of the gold supposedly in Fort Knox is much more than that now because of how much gold has gone up in price, over $3,300 right now. So how many 737 planes at $72 million each? Well, probably the same amount of planes actually because of inflation, but we'll leave that there. All the gold would be, in other words, all the gold would be spent in 38 hours, 55 minutes, and 34 seconds. What if there was no gold in Fort Knox? Would there be a devastating blow at the legitimacy and trust of the U.S. financial stability? Will other countries with strong and growing gold reserves ever replace the U.S. dollar, the world reserve currency? I think so, because it's the foundation, it's the anchor of trust, as the Dutch central bank said. And we know that Russia has now moved to 5th place, not 6th place in gold reserves. And China has moved up as well, too. And when you think about the massive amount of gold that has been added to the central bank's coffers since 2022, it's pretty amazing. Gold is more relevant now than ever before as a Tier 1 asset. Back in April of 2019, that essentially set the stage. So there better be gold in Fort Knox. I think it's there, but I understand why people question it. Will the U.S. resort to counterfeiting citizen gold or confiscating citizen gold like in the 1930s? Well, some people thought that the patriation of gold during the tariff scare was the beginning of what essentially would replace that to set up a sovereign wealth fund, including gold. That's still a possibility, although much more slight these days. And we'll see here. So that is the situation. What is really in Fort Knox and why all the secrecy? And again, unnecessarily so with the secrecy. See what happens, but I believe that the gold is there. Let me know what your thoughts are, if you think the gold is there or not. And I think many of us legitimately would question that even if the gold is found to be in Fort Knox, who owns it? Who really owns it? Especially with rehypothecation going on. That's number one. Number two is why not show us and audit the gold? You can do both. Show us the gold and also audit the gold. A full audit is needed. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.